Welcome to the Mental Wellness channel. This is Waihiga. Today I am joined by a special guest, and this is Rebecca Kye, not Kye, Kye. Hey, yeah. We have really struggled with this name for a couple of years since I've met this lovely woman. But Rebecca is the first lady and the first person that I will be interviewing for my channel. I can't wait to have her speak on issues alcoholism. And so I'm just going to give her the mic and she will take it away. She is someone who is a recovering alcoholic and she has a lot of background and knowledge in this field. So let's just take it away.
Thank you so much, Waihiga. It's really an honor to be on your channel. I mean, mental wellness with Waihiga, so I really don't like the question, who is Kye, who is Rebecca? But I mean, I'm a woman who wears many hats. First of all, I'm a woman who loves Jesus. I am an author. I am a lived experience speaker, a public speaker as well. And I'm also a sobriety coach and the founder of I Have a Life, which provides personalized addiction recovery for people struggling with addiction or alcohol use disorder. And that's really how I spend my time, among other things, which we will be here all day if we're to talk about that. But that, in a nutshell, is really who Kye is.
So what is your background, Rebecca? How did you get to this place? I know it's a long story about how you got to the place, but what makes Rebecca Rebecca? What is your family background? Where did you come from? Are you Kenyan? Are you one of East African girl? Are you Kenyan? What makes you you?
Thank you. So I'm actually Ugandan. I'm Ugandan by descent, by birth, and I grew up in I could say an average family, a middle class family. My father is a retired pilot. My mother was an entrepreneur, and I grew up, I have 5 other siblings. One is deceased. I'm the last born. So life pretty much was interesting for me, being a last born. A lot of my other siblings flew out of the country. Most of them are in the US and the UK. It's just my elder brother, the one who I follow, the second last born, and I, who are here in Africa. And so really what I can say about my background is I grew up in an interesting household. My dad did everything to provide for us, went to some of the best schools. We never lacked anything. Whenever dad came from traveling, he always had like toys or chocolates or things for us. So it really was never an atmosphere or a home of, can I say, lack. We always had whatever we needed. Whatever we asked, dad would provide, mom would provide. And it was, I believe, the year 2001 when my father was posted to come and live in Kenya because he was coming to work here. And so my brother and I stayed home in Uganda with my mom. And that's when I started to notice that my mom had a drinking problem. And it slowly began to spiral, because as a child, there are certain things that you just can't comprehend. And not just not comprehend, but also not question, because 1, this is an African mother. 2, this is an alcoholic African mother. So you don't bring your mouth and your opinions and attitudes asking why mom is drunk, asking why mom hasn't picked you up from school, asking why mom is still sleeping when she has to take you swimming, why mom falls asleep on the wheel when she's driving, things like that. So over the years, her drinking intensified, and I started to notice the adverse effects more and more and more. And unfortunately, in the year 2005, I remember I was not in the country. I was in high school at the time. I loved playing cricket. I loved playing sports, almost every sport. I played almost every sport. And I remember I was on the school cricket team and I was chosen to represent the country and the school at a cricket conference in Zambia. And so my mom dropped me at the airport. She was really, really drunk, I remember. My flight was at 5, so we drove at midnight. And she dropped me at the airport. And I remember I was so irritated that day because of how drunk she was. And so, I just walked through. I didn't even say bye to her. I just walked through departures. I just couldn't wait to get to Zambia, enjoy myself. I was there for like 5 days. When I returned after the 5 days, I got to the airport and I found my 2 aunts were standing there. But it wasn't anything unusual for me because all throughout my primary school, I would walk out of class and there's like the housemaid, there's like a border driver there, there's like a special, like a cab guy, there's like an aunt and uncle because mom was too drunk to come pick me. And so when I saw the 2 aunts, I was like, you know what, mom is drunk. And so when we drove home, like about 100 meters from home, one of the aunts I was seated with in the back told me, Rebecca, you need to be strong. Mom passed away on Saturday. And I was wondering, and I was like, what do you mean? She dropped me at the airport on Friday. They said, yeah, she was at home and she went to sleep and she never woke up. So basically I found out she passed from multiple organ failure, which was predominantly there was alcohol attributable liver cirrhosis, but multiple organ failure. Her kidneys had been affected, her pancreas, and a lot of other organs as well. And so, yeah, that's how she passed in her sleep. And so we buried her and, life went back to normal. And I remember as a teenager, I vowed never to drink alcohol because of what I saw it do to mom. And so a year later, this is 2006, I got done with my O-levels. I am in my vacation. I was never that kid who, how you hear people tell you stories, teenagers telling you, as we jump from home and then we go party and then I was never that child. Why? Because dad had made home. Everything was home. Like I would spend my time reading magazines. I would spend my time on phone. He got me a phone. I would spend my time listening to radio. I would spend my time watching TV. I was always watching TV. I knew the MTV Top of the Pops countdown from number 10 to 1 to 10. I knew all the artists. I knew who was dating who. You understand? I was so occupied. I loved entertainment. I loved music. I loved lifestyle, basically. And so dad made home such a comfortable place for that. I never sought I want to know what's outside the home walls. Never ever. So he said, if you want to talk to your friends, here's a phone. I don't want to hear stories about CJ. My child was here and there, caught in this and that. So that's really pretty much how I was raised. And so one time I was on phone one night, I think it was about 10 p.m. and I was talking to a friend of mine from school, this guy. And he was like a really good friend. I'd known him from Form 1. And so he calls me at 10 p.m. one night and he tells me, hey, so I have my brother's car. Please, we are 15 years old. I have my brother's car and I wanted to know, can I come pick you up and I take you to, there's a very popular discotheque at the time. It's called Club Silk. Can I come and take you to Club Silk? I said, me? You heathen? Like, who do you think I am? You understand? You would hear about Club Silk, you'd sit in the tabloids. Club Silk was like Saturn's throne. Even as a child, you'd tremble when you hear the words Club Silk. So, eventually, because I knew he was a friend of mine, and I was like, okay, fine, come pick me up. Now, please keep in mind, at home, after mom's death, it's just me and my elder brother. My brother is 4 years older than me. He's exactly like his father, speaks when spoken to, very quiet, very reserved. He's so into technology, so he was always in his room. Either he was reading, or he was inventing something, or he was on computer games. So he never knew what was happening outside the room. Me, on the other hand, I was exactly like my mom. Very outgoing, loved meeting new people, I was just the exact opposite of my father. So he picks me up, my friend picks me up. I dress normally, as a normal teenager would. Stonewashed jeans, if you remember those jeans, the brown green, were they green or brown? I don't even know. Stonewashed jeans, a cute red spaghetti top, and I remember I had my long hair at the time. I had my hair, and he picked me up, and I remember he wore my cousin's high heels. There were some very ugly block heels. I can never even wear them right now. So I wore them and he came, picked me up, and we went. We are 15-year-olds. We got to this place. It was such a new experience. The women were dressed the way they wanted. As in my mind, I'm like, you could have just not worn clothes. The men were looking at me like prey. I was so scared. I was holding my friend's hand so tightly. And then he said, no, don't worry. Let's just go into the club. We walked into the club. Security didn't even check us. It's like they knew the guy like he was a regular. So we walk in and I told him, I want to sit where there's light. Like I'm not hanging. The place was just scary. The men were anyhow smoking, drinking. I said, whatever. I said, I hope you're not here for a long time. I want to be where there's light. And so he takes me to the counter. I said, I'll hang here until you're done doing whatever you're doing. And then you come pick me and then we go. And he said, cool. He left me in the hands of a bartender. told her, give her whatever she wants. And I remember the first thing I ordered for was mango juice. And the lady laughed so much. She called back my friend. She whispered something in his ear. I think she was telling him, your friend here who you've brought for us doesn't understand the plan, you know. So, so as I'm seated at the counter, eventually all they were showing me was beer. And remember those days, 2006, beer was not in these cute little bottles you see these days. It was those big ugly bottles that you have to hold with two hands. And they used to, but every time I would see those bottles, they would remind me of mom, they would remind me of my uncles. They would just I said I don't want to drink beer. Then they would show me those Mizinga, the bottles reminded me of mom, because mom was doing about 2 bottles of Mizinga a day. And so I said I don't want that anymore. So my friend was like, what are we going to give you, you know? And so there's this brand that had just come out at that time. Yeah, I won't say the name, but the Reds and the Blacks. Yeah, so their marketing strategy at the time was the refrigerators. And so the drink, because of its translucent nature, would like reflect the light from the refrigerators and give light so much. And so that was why I wanted to sit at the counter, because the fridge, like, there was so much light. I said whatever that drink is inside that fridge, I wanted, because first of all, it looked like soda. It didn't look dangerous, to be honest. It looked like something that would go down easy. I said whatever that is, just get me that. So there was a promotion that night. I think it was 3 bottles for a certain amount. And so he gave the bartender the order and said, just keep them coming, you know, for her. And I remember I took my first sip and it tasted like soda, to be honestly. I had never taken alcohol, so I didn't know what intoxication felt like. So I thought I was just drinking to refresh myself, you know, to wet my throat and to pass time. So I was drinking like a mad woman, you know, just gobbling down. 1 bottle was going down in like 6 minutes. Next thing I knew, I had drunk like 12 bottles in 2 hours. So by the 3rd bottle, I remember I was seated on the bar stool and I was listening to the music, and the music sounded different. I'm like, but I hear this music every day. It's like, maybe I think I haven't had this part before. Then, you know, the shoulder is moving, then the knee is moving. Next thing I knew, I was off the bar stool and I was dancing in one corner, the next corner. I did 12 bottles in about 2 hours and I was through the roof. My friend came running to pick me somewhere on the dance floor, and he said, I'm taking you home right now. I told him, I don't want to go home. Where are we going home? And he said, I'm taking you now before your brother kills me. And so I don't even know how I got home. All I know is I woke up the next day. I was on my bed. All my clothes were on. Even my shoes were on. My hand was stretched out of the bed. Like I was still holding my bag. And I woke up and I had the craziest headache I ever had in my life. I had my throat was dry, I was dehydrated. But the first thing I did was reach for my phone and call my friend. I looked at the time, it was midday. I called my friend and I told, in my pounding headache and in my stress, and I picked up my phone and I called him and I told him, where are we today? And I remember that was the beginning of my 15-year struggle with alcohol.
I mean, there's so many things to say there. Like you, I think also doubled with alcohol at 15. That's when I was going to house parties and starting to drink. But isn't it interesting that in the beginning, when we were being introduced to these things, the alcohol, the partying lifestyle, everything was just free. Everything was just free. However many bottles you want, just go. Yeah. Just keep. Everything was so convenient. Everything was so fun. And yet it opened up such a journey of hell. By the end of these journeys, the way you and I were both struggling is so insane, you know, and that's something that looked as non-offensive as a black or red bottle. I won't also say the brand, but the way they're marketing alcohol to look that non-offensive, you know, and targeted towards women. And you drink them like they were, I don't know, like they're sodas. It's true. You drink them down like they're sodas. They give you the worst hangovers. 7%. 7%. You drink them down. And then the worst mistake you make is that you don't eat. And then you're mixing flavors. And then you're mixing liquors. You know, and you wake up with the worst hangovers. And the thing is, you don't know. We don't know which of us is going to react like this to alcohol. And the audacity for your friend to come and say, find you on the dance floor and say, Atina, I'm taking you home. But you brought me out. Hello, I'm out. Right. The audacity. So it's just so interesting. Also, the fact that your mom died and you were so young, it's just, I remember when I first watched your story, and my jaw dropped when I heard you say that, to lose your mom at such a tender age and not be able to say goodbye, and that was your last interaction. I think that was just the deepest thing ever. So in terms of your journey with alcohol, how did it progress from there? I think there's a intersection here, because most people, when they would have woken up, after the day after that, going out in the bar, head pounding, you don't remember, even how you got into your bed, your clothes are still on. I think most reasonable people would have said, I think that stuff, I'm not going to touch it. I think that stuff showed me flames, I'm not going to touch it. But you called the guy up and you said, you know what, this thing, we're gonna do it. Called the guy up and you're like, no, this thing, where are we tonight again? Where are we doing this? I think that's the intersection where I think you chose, maybe let's go this way instead of that way. How did your journey with alcohol go after there?
So basically, first of all, consider the fact that I'm in a house literally alone. Yeah, because dad's not home. He lives in Kenya. My brother is constantly in his room. I'm living a life unsupervised. So the first time that I experienced this, all I knew is that I wanted to be in that environment again. I wanted to experience that euphoria that I got from the drinking again. Plus, I'm someone who loved music, and I said, if there's more of this, I want more of this. So I told my friend, where are we today? And I found out that these guys actually used to drink every day, Monday to Saturday. Yeah, and so there were always different spots that they would go, and I told him, carry me along with you. He said, okay. But after what he saw on the first night, he constantly had like a hawk eye on me, But eventually, with time, because of the constant exposure to alcohol, I started to build my tolerance, basically becoming a disciplined drinker. And so, my vacation got done. I went to my A-levels. Uganda, we have advanced levels. So I went to my senior 5, senior 6. And I remember all I could think about was, I even became a prefect because I wanted to leave school to go out and party and drink. I remember. So now, this was when the taste for alcohol was becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. By the time I got to my Essex vacation and to university, I was a seasoned drinker. So between 2006 and 2010, at that time, in those 4 years, I was not seeing the negative adverse effects. And that's why a lot of people justify their alcoholism, or people justify their drinking habits, because they're not yet seeing the negative effects. And by the time the negative effects manifest, or by the time they actually notice that there's a problem, their brain chemistry has already been wired to be addicted to alcohol. So stopping is actually hard. So they would rather say, you know what, that's when they start coming up with all these excuses. You know what, anyway, YOLO. You only live once, and then start justifying their drinking until, things just go out of hand. So I go to university, and I remember the university I went to is known as Uganda's Vegas. So literally, this was a newfound freedom. I'm a seasoned drinker. Literally everyone knew me from birth. Like, people, even if you did not know me from whatever school I was, people knew me from partying. But that was such a problem, because you see, the party culture starts as young as 15 years old. That's not normal. It shouldn't be normal in any child's life. But it's literally a reality. It's like an initiation into your later stages of life in Uganda. And so by the time I got to first year, everyone knew me, which was so weird. Everyone knew me. Some people I knew, but I didn't even know their names. I just knew their faces from the bar. From bars and from parties and things like that. So I remember I got to first year, everything was okay. And by the way, I've always been a brilliant person, like even in school, academics and things like that. So it really wasn't that I was a dumb person or whatever. And so I remember first semester went well. I was basically a functioning alcoholic, drink all night, make it to the room, sleep for 1 hour, shower, go hangover to class, make it. Second sem, things got a bit, because now I thought that I could manage the two. And that's when the chaos began. I remember I chewed my tuition because I wanted to drink. And tuition, I always have to say this: tuition money is cursed. Even if you remove 100 bob, for any other kind of money, be it business money, be it money for I don't know whatever. If you remove 100 bob and you say, what, I'm going to replace this money, that money will appear and you will replace it. Tuition money, even 50 bob. You remove 50 bob like this and say, I'm going to replace it. You will look for 50 bob until, and you will never find it. And that's exactly what happened. I remember the entire semester went by. I wasn't able to replace the money. And that wasn't even the problem. I wasn't making it to class. I wasn't handing in coursework. So I literally didn't, what they call it, qualify for exams. So now at the end of the sem is now I'm starting to think clearly. And now I'm saying, oh gosh, look at the hole I'm in. What am I going to tell my dad? So now I started cooking up a lie to tell my dad. And I told him, I don't like the course that I'm doing here. I want to go to another university and get another course. And then he said, okay, you know what, come home and then we'll see what to do. So I came home. I applied for another university, a Christian university. I went to the university. First sem was okay. Everything was okay. First sem was fine. Second semester. First of all, it was a Christian university. So first years have to sleep on campus. I said I'm never sleeping on campus again because one, I wasn't able to smoke comfortably. I wasn't able to drink comfortably. I said I'm never sleeping on campus again. So I had the letter forged from the dean. Are they called vice dean? The dean. And basically it was allowing me to sleep off campus for second sem. So because I had come to another university, I was now in first year and the people I knew were in second year. So I was the first year who was drinking with second years, So also I loved the attention and all of that. So I started drinking with these guys. I wasn't making it to class, yeah, because remember, even when I was on campus, I would drink with these guys. Campus had a deadline. Like if you're going to campus, you have to be there by 10 p.m. By 10 p.m. If you go past, they don't open for you the gate. So I would drink until midnight, till 1. Then so if it hits midnight, you're like, you know what, we're already here. So you drink until 6. So you don't go to class the next day. So it started happening more and more frequently. And so after second sem, I flipped, like I failed so many classes. And so here I was, I sat down and I said, you know what, this is it. Like we failed. I don't know what I'm going to tell dad. And so because of that kind of shame, because I knew at the back of my mind that my dad did everything that he could to provide, there's that shame, there's that hurt, that guilt. And so I didn't tell my dad anything. I continued, in quotes, going to school for the next 2 years, but I actually wasn't going to school. And my dad was actually paying. So what he would do is he would give me the tuition because he was living in Kenya. So he would give me the tuition. And so I would pay hostel money and then I would just blow the other money drinking.
I can definitely relate. You're brave. At least you stayed in campus. Some of us took our chances outside campus. Some of us took our chances outside the campus because there was a point where I was like being banned from entering the school. They were like, you can't enter. You're too drunk. It doesn't matter if you're going to the cafeteria. It doesn't matter if you say you're not going to classes. We don't care. You can't enter. So at least even you paid your tuition, you paid for hostel, so you had somewhere to sleep. But I definitely understand the shame and the progressiveness because you start saying, I'm here, I'm in university, I can do what everybody does, I've finally made it to 18. We can all drink like normal adults. And somehow the thought isn't catching up that I'm not a normal drinker. I'm not a normal drinker and I'm not making it to class like everyone else. And then you start to think, okay, I can do both. I can do both. And then you can't. And then you start saying, well, let me drink. Let me drink over class. Let me drink over assignments. Well, I'm still young. And then going home and facing your dad or your family and looking at them and the thought of looking at them and having a conversation that the money is gone. I have no degree to show for. So what have you been doing? Just drinking. even that thought just made me want to drink all over again. And I used to drink so it just kept you in a cycle of drinking. And also I can definitely identify to moving environments or moving different places and saying, okay, maybe it's the people here. Maybe I need to go to a different university. Maybe I need to change my course. Maybe I need to get a job. Maybe it's not yet time to study. All sorts of excuses. And, a lot of people would try and give advice like, the problem with her is that she has nothing to do.
The advice was the words. Family members, I understand that family members have concern, but the truth is they actually don't have concern. They're actually looking for tea. And this is advice to people who have loved ones. If they're really your loved ones, or maybe you're just looking for tea. A lot of people actually use that phrase very loosely. I have a loved one. Are you actually looking to help, or are you looking for tea? I remember there's so many. I actually got to find this out years later. When university failed, of course, a thief has 40 days. My father found out that I was not in school and whatever, so they shipped me to Nairobi. Now, Nairobi was the place I loved so much. It was a place I used to come for holidays to see dad. Nairobi is a place where I fell in love with reggae. That's how I actually became a reggae dancehall DJ. I loved reggae and dancehall music. And so this time I was being shipped to Nairobi, not on good terms. They brought me to a convent. They first told me they were bringing me to a school. So I came, they brought me to a convent. It was a literal convent, like a convent that had nuns, it had brothers. I was like, are these people really serious? Does my family really love me? Like, they really brought me to a convent at my big age. And so they enrolled me into a convent. But just to shorten the story, I was expelled from the convent. It was a record because they were so traumatized. I managed to sneak cigarettes into the convent, into my room, and I think when the lady was cleaning, I think she found the cigarettes. So she reported me to Mother Superior. And so the lady called me and told me, I think she was so traumatized because the way that they framed the expulsion, it was basically like letting me go, but I knew they were expelling me. So they called my stepmom and they told her, your daughter is very brilliant, but she can go and exercise her brilliance in more creative ways in Uganda. So basically, I just know how traumatized they were. I think they wondered and said, how did cigarettes enter our premises? Because it was like a literal monastery. It was like, I think the only thing that was missing was like a moat of water, like an island of water to separate it from civilization. But it's located in CBD in Nairobi. And so they let me go and I went back to Kampala. And I remember that, like, having to go back home to face my dad, because my dad is really those people. He's reserved. He speaks when spoken to. He's not an aggressive person. So when I came home, my dad, like the look in his eyes, the tone really broke my heart. He told me, I've really done everything that I can. I don't know what to do with you anymore. You're going to live in this house, but don't expect anything from me. I'm not going to be an enabler of your lifestyle. Think about your life. So here I am. All I'm thinking about is I'm back in town. I need to look for my friends and drink and party and catch up. I said, in this city where I know everyone, I can't fail, So eventually I got my first job. That was the time when digital marketing had started picking up in Kampala. And so I got my first job as a senior copywriter at one of the top agencies in Kampala. And I was making a lot of money, Waihiga. Now, I need you to understand, this is a person with a drinking problem who has no responsibilities of any kind, at rent, water, no responsibilities. I was drinking that money in 2-3 days. Like, let's say the salary comes on 28th. By 31st, that money had to be done. But just not by 31st, I was looking for loan sharks. Because I needed money to take me through the next month, because Dad wasn't going to give me any money. So I would stake the company phone, and then even the money that the loan shark would give me for the money I've staked, I would finish it in 2 days. So now I end up going on Facebook telling my friends, hey, send me this and this and this. Because everyone knew I was digital media of this and this. That's a very small, Kampala is a very small city, so everyone knows what everyone does. So if I got to someone and said, yo, help me with this amount of money, the person would be like, she works for this and this. Like, please, no problem. So I was borrowing money from I would have 10 people I'm owing. So by the time the salary comes at the end of the month, the money is already. So now I have to call a loan shark again. So it was just that vicious cycle of debt. And so that was problem number one, the finances. Two, the strain of the relationship between my dad and I. it's very straining to live in a house with someone and you're not speaking. My dad and I would pass each other in the house without, you pass, like you haven't greeted each other since morning. You have to pass each other in the corridor, not speaking to each other. That was a very strange, it was very strange. I really hope that's not something that I'll ever have to have with my kids. It's one of the strangest things I ever experienced. And so something happened. Basically, I fired myself from the job I had because my drinking had become problematic. I was showing up to work drunk. In Kampala, it's very normal to drink until 7 the next day, and then you go straight to office in the same clothes you were in the previous day. It's very normal. So I had started doing that. Workmates started complaining. My bosses started complaining. The clients started complaining. They called the boss one time and said, "The lady you sent us for the status meeting smelled like a distillery." So that didn't happen not once, not twice, very many times. So basically, when you see trouble coming, so you remove yourself. So yeah, I literally removed myself from that equation. One day I just woke up and never went back to work. No, nothing. Like I didn't know, no, hi guys. Thank you for that. I woke up one day. I remember the hangover was so bad. I think I was going through a depressive state at the time because I remember that morning I woke up and said, they don't even pay me enough. And I covered I kid you not, I was so dry. I said, they don't even pay me enough. And I never went back. So yeah, my father said, asking me questions, why aren't you going to work? I told him I'm on leave. But of course, I'd been working there for like 6 months. So it's like, you have leave and things like that. So when he said asking so many questions, I would start waking up very early in the morning and then go to the shop and sit and drink just to be away. Then I would make sure I wait for him to sleep like at 9, 10, then that's when I would come back home. So it was basically escapism, just running away from, confrontation. So eventually I got another job. Things went well. It was actually paying me more than the last job. And I said, Share, we are on second chance. Let's not mess this up. And so, there were clients I actually loved, work that I actually loved, also in a digital marketing agency. And so the first 3 months went well. Then the problems began. I became comfortable because now I knew the company schedule and everything. So now the like having to work my way around criticism from coming to work, I don't know how many relatives I killed at that company. Told them there are times I would drink and then I would say, let me go home, sleep for 1 hour, and then I'll go to work. Then I'll shower and go to work. Then I don't know how many days I would go to sleep and wake up and it's 2 p.m. And then I have to now, they asked me, Rebecca, you didn't come to work. And I said, you guys, I'm so sorry, my cousin died. I don't know how many relatives I killed. I killed so many, I can't even remember. I killed so many relatives. Then eventually, something happened at home. An incident happened at home where I was in a bar partying. And so I spent all my money and they didn't have transport to bring me back home. So it was 2 in the morning. I call my border rider, my personal border rider. I tell him, hi, he was called Paul. Hi, Paul. I'm stuck in a bar. Can you kindly come pick me? I'll pay you during the week. He said, okay. Came pick me up, brought me home. When I came home, I found the padlock was inside, not outside. In African culture, you know what that means. Go back to where you're coming from. And so me, I was drunk. And I told the border guy, you jump the fence and open for me. Jump the gate and open for me. So he jumped. Now we have an Askari at the time. His name was Samson. He's deceased. Samson worked for a family even before I was born. So Samson was a severe alcoholic. And I'm talking about, he was a Luo guy who, for him, he never knew how to use guns. He only knew how to use arrows. And he was so precise with arrows, crazy. And he used to drink local brew constantly, day night. He was never sober. Like my entire life, all my years, I saw that man. He was never sober. Eyes were always red. That's the man who was guarding us at home. So I remember I knocked on the gate. I said, Samson, open for me, open for me. He wasn't opening. So me, I knew he was not around. He had gone to drink. So I tell the border guy, jump the fence, open for me from inside. So he jumps. He jumps. When he jumped, turns out Samson was inside. Samson, yes, the border guy, now he comes out in his drunken. The guy was so drunk he could barely see. This is a guy who's so drunk he can't see, and he's waving a bow and an arrow around at this guy, the poor border man. And so the border man is so scared, he kneels. It's 2 a.m. in a very quiet high-end neighborhood. The border man kneels down. Samson is a Luo. He only understands Luo, Lugbar, and Swahili. Paul is a Muganda. He doesn't know English. He only speaks Luganda. Me, I'm on this other side of the gate. I'm peeping in the hole. So I want you to picture this situation. All I could hear Samson speaking, he was shouting, "When in Nani?" He has a bow and arrow and he's pulled and he's aimed at this guy's head. This guy is on the ground kneeling and he's trying to explain in Luganda what's happening. Samson is not understanding. This man is in a panic. He's screaming, "Please don't kill me," in Luganda. "Please don't kill me, please don't kill me." Samson is there saying, "When in Nani? I'll kill you now. Who are you?" He thought he was a thief. I'm on the other side of the gate shouting, "Samson, I've been knocking the gate." I had to picture that scenario. And so it took place for about 5 minutes. Five, I think even more. And so eventually he lets the border guy go. So Paul comes out and I tell him, "Paul, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pay you your money later." He said, "Don't ever call me. Keep the money." He told me, "Don't ever call me in your life." So I enter the house. I enter the gate and I tell Samson, "By the Samson," in my drunkenness, I was like, "By the Samson, you're not a very serious person." Even Samson is looking at me and telling me, "You're also not a very serious person. How do you bring a border man?" I told him, "But for you, how can we knock on the gate and you're not opening?" It was the craziest scenario. So, of course, I knew if I don't shut this guy up, he's going to tell my father. I don't even know how dad didn't even wake up in the middle of that. Yeah. So Samson eventually, I had to bribe Samson with cigarettes. At that time, there was some menthol. There's a cigarette company that had just put out its menthol brand, and so Samson was he was a very local guy. So he was like menthol cigarettes really jazzed him so much. So he was like, "Can you give me those nice things of mine?" I gave him. I had literally was all that I had. I had no money. I had nothing. All I had was cigarettes, and I gave him my menthol cigarettes, and I told him, please, like do anything, but please just don't tell dad. Said, "Okay, it's okay." I kid you not, 6 a.m., my door, boof, was kicked in. Who was it? Dad. "How dare you bring a man to jump over my fence?" I said, "It's Samson now." We made a deal. But my dad, like, that was the first time in my entire life I'd seen my father that angry. Anyway, long story short, my father said a lot of things. That really should have been a sobering moment for me. He said a lot of things. He said, you look at your life, you're your mother's daughter. If you don't get your life together, one day they're going to call me and tell me to to come pick your body from a mortuary. That was it was a very, very, he said a lot of very hurtful things in that moment. And I remember that was the time when he told me, "When I come back today, I don't find you in my house." So that was the day my father kicked me out of the house. And so from that point, I basically packed up my stuff. I didn't even say bye to him. He wasn't around by the time he came home. I packed up my stuff. I started living in the office where I was working. I lived there for a month until a friend of mine, he was a very popular Kampala DJ, and he said, "Hey, Che, how are you? I'm house hunting, and I'm finding an apartment with three-bedroom apartment. I'm looking for housemates." I told him, "Hey, man, just let me know. My salary is coming in a week. Let me know, and then I'll give you the deposit that you need for 3 or 4 months or whatever." So yeah, eventually I started living with my friend and another friend of ours. But now it was like frying pan into the fire because this is now a DJ, and wherever the DJ is, there's free drinks. So he was a very popular DJ, booked from Monday to Sunday. So now I was literally now not going to work because I was drinking every single day. And then I'm also depressed of the fact that I've been kicked out of home and the bad relationship with dad. So the entire time I'd moved out from home, after about 4 months, one day I woke up and I had a very depressive episode. Because I woke up one day and I realized after all this time, my father's not called me or even found out where I am. Like, does he even care like about me and things like that? So there were so many emotions. It's not even just that. I started to think about so many other things about mom and so many things. So I remember I absconded from work for about like a week. I switched off my phone. People started looking for me. Guys thought I had run away with company equipment. Everyone was calling. Who knows where Che is? Meanwhile, Che was in her room, not opening curtains. She was in her room squeezing, because I had no money, squeezing these tot packs. My room was a carpet. Like, if you walked into my room blindfolded, you would just hear squatch, squatch, because there was just cigarette packs and tot packs. That's all that was on the floor of my room, and I would not leave my room. And I remember towards my mom's death, that's how she had become. She would be in her room and she would not switch on the light. She would just be there drinking in the dark. It was just so bizarre. And I used to wonder, like, is it a thing? Like, is it a phase in motherhood? Like, I never understood at that age. And so eventually a workmate got in touch with the DJ friend of mine and said, "Oh no, Che is home. She's not okay." And that, but eventually, I got to talk to the boss, and the boss told me, "Rebecca, if you need to, go and seek some kind of help, go and seek the help you need. You're one of my best employees. Your job is here waiting for you if you want it." I said, "Okay, no problem." Basically, I just fired myself. I didn't go back. And that was like the beginning of all the trouble because now I had no job. I was not working. I didn't even feel like I wanted to work. I felt like I wanted to drink. I felt like alcohol would help me get over whatever this thing that I was living was, because I can't even call what I was going through life. Yeah. I wasn't in touch with any of my relatives. I didn't know what was going on in my life. And I remember as time went by, I wasn't able to keep up with the rent. So eventually my friend had to kick me out. You know, he said, "You know what, just even forget about," like, months were passing by. I was getting to the fifth month without paying rent. And it wasn't a very cheap apartment. So he said, "You know what, let's just forget the 5 months. I'll find a way to pay it, but don't accumulate anymore. Just carry your stuff and leave." I said, "Fine." And so from July 2016 to Feb 7th, 2020, I was literally homeless in the streets of Kampala, just drinking and passing time.
I can't even begin to imagine, yeah? A female alcoholic on the streets of Kampala from 2016 to 2020. I can't begin to imagine what that type of life was like. What do you do when the flashbacks come back today?
I don't know. I think I've come to a place where, to be honest, I there's one thing I realized, and it's that my life hardened me so much. It hardened me. So even when I tell my story, it's like people expect a certain reaction from me that they don't get. Like, even the first time I ever told my story, the audience was crying. People were crying. And so I've learned to punctuate my story with humor, because the kind of life that I went through on the street hardened me so much. The kind of life that I went through on the street hardened me so much. Even when the flashbacks come, I feel like there's no, I feel like it happened, it happened. I can't say I'm comfortable talking about it. All I can say is I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent. It happened, it happened. So I don't really have an emotional attachment to the flashbacks of street life. But one thing I can say is that it's given me the confidence to be able to tell my story without bias and without emotion, so that people can actually get to understand the true consequences of, alcohol use. The day that we live in, we really are, we really justify drinking so much, enjoyments, vibes, this and that. But people need to understand that there are very dire consequences to getting used to substances and alcohol as well. So when the flashbacks come, it's just as it, I really don't know what to say. But when the flashbacks come, it's just remembering that situation for what it.
What do you say to people who say that you chose to drink yourself to the point of being homeless? Look at you. You were such a rich Ugandan girl. You came from this privileged family. And your dad fought for you and tried to do all these things for you, and you rejected his help all those years until you found the point that you were on the streets of Kampala. What do you say to those people who say that this is an active choice that you made?
To be honest, at some point it actually does become a choice, because a lot of people, myself included, started drinking harmlessly, out of curiosity, out of, you're just initiated into the lifestyle of drinking, and you fall in love with it, and you just carry on with it. However, a lot of people start drinking harmlessly but end up drinking to cope with the problems that drinking causes. And so at that point it becomes an active choice. Even when you see that there's negative effects that are happening in your life, but you still choose to continue to drink, there is a point where it becomes an active choice. So, which is why we always say, if you really want help, the first step is acknowledging that there is a problem. When there is acknowledgement that there is a problem, there is an active choice to be made in that moment. It's either you understand that, yes, there is a problem, either you choose to seek help to stop, or you choose the easier route of the familiar chaos and continue with the pattern. So at some point, it does become an act.
So then I guess this is the part I want to ask. In all that madness, how did you get to your rock bottom? Because for me, I think life on the streets, I think the day that would have happened to me, maybe for me that would have been, well, I was very stubborn, but maybe for me that would have been the day I had a conversation with myself like, I think this is where the far that alcohol has brought me. I think it's time to reconsider our relationship. From that point on, you still went on to drinking. What was your rock bottom?
So first of all, I always tell people the streets will always give you what you're looking for. All I wanted to do was drink, and the streets provided alcohol at whatever day, whatever time, and it was free. Yeah. So I fell in love with the streets because it was giving me what. Yeah. So I found ways to cope with the streets. I found familiar places to sleep, like bus stages, mall balconies, bars, wherever I could sleep, as long as it was going to give me the convenience of being in the vicinity of alcohol or being in the vicinity of, enjoyments. That for me was good, So in 2020, I remember 2019 actually. 2019, I was somewhere on the streets, and my elder brother, he used to work out of the country, but he flew in, and he told me that my eldest brother, who was in the UK, had passed away from cardiac arrest, which was alcohol attributable as well. He had struggled with alcohol all his life. Yeah, so he had passed away literally the same way that my mom died. The paramedics said they got into the house and they found him in his bed asleep. He had been dead for 3 days. And so basically he went to sleep and never woke up. And so in that point, I had been on the streets for about 3.5 years. And so in that moment, I began to wonder. I was like, at this point, 3.5 years on the street, I was a mess. I had lost so much weight. I had lost like 40 kilos. I had dreadlocks. My dreads were like the thing, the thing that you repair, the dread. It was so thick. I need to get you those photos. It was so bad. My brother told me my sister family members were flying in to bury my brother. My sister came in to bury my brother. She hadn't been to Uganda in about 20 something years. She took one look at me and she carried me to, I remember, Aga Khan Hospital for a full body checkup because she thought I was sick. My lips were burnt. Like even to date, my lips are burnt. Like a lot of people actually, some are brave. Some people ask me, do you have HIV, AIDS? There are people who are brave enough to ask. If you actually see my lips, you can think that they look much better now, but it's still, they have a pink lining because the crude, there's a point in life where I now couldn't afford high-end alcohol. I was now drinking the crude. So both cigarettes and crude alcohol constantly, burnt the lips. And so that's why I'm always wearing lipstick. I'm very insecure about my lips. But usually when I'm going to give a talk, I go without lipstick to show people this is what happens to you, when you constantly use alcohol and cigarettes. So I remember I didn't, even when my brother's body came, I wasn't able to bury him because I didn't have transport to take me. I remember in the area where I was, I asked my people, like those guys who are in the bar, I told them, hey guys, please help me. My brother passed away. The body has arrived. The burial is today. Kindly help me with. I remember I wanted about 300 bob Kenya shillings, like 300 bob to go and bury. I kid you not. Those guys were seated drinking labels and da 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 da. I kid you not. They said, we don't have money, but we have beer. They bought me beer. They literally bought beer and alcohol and they put it there and they said, we don't have money, and they put beer there. And I had no money. So I didn't bury my brother. I sat down and I drank beer. And so eventually in 2020, this was Feb 2020, the Uganda National Roads Authority was constructing a road where my mom was buried. So what they do is they facilitate and compensate the family of the person the people whose remains are buried there to facilitate for the relocation. And so they compensate the family. And so they gave us, there was a lot of money that was given, and my brother was given my share of the money because no one in the family knew where I was. No one knew where I was. I was just on the streets. People just knew Rebecca is on the streets. My family didn't know where I was. Only my brother maybe would find time because Kampala is very small. And so he would find time and just go to bars. And so he would go to somewhere and maybe find people who were in our high school. And then he says, hi, have you seen Che? Have you seen Che? Then a person would be like, oh, Che, today is Tuesday. look for reggae night here. Oh, today is Thursday. No, she's playing at reggae night here. Today is Friday. So, that's how he would find me. So eventually he found me and he told me, hey, there's some money for you that's come through, but I'm not giving it to you. If you want money, you come to my office, you sign for it, and then I give you. So first order of business, he gave me a broker. I moved around with the broker. The broker got me a very small bed sitter somewhere, just a place to starters. Gave me the basics, a mattress, pillow. I remember I was sleeping on the ground, mattress, no bed sheet. Mattress, no bed sheets, pillows, and I had a blanket and an extension cable, and he bought me a phone. So he told me, so yeah, organize yourself, get yourself together, buy yourself some good clothes, start getting your CV together, because I need you to find a job so you can look after yourself. So I started cleaning up my CV, organizing my CV, applying for jobs. I actually had started getting callbacks, but at the same time my DJ career had picked up.